Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and to help you engage with public policy in the great state of Texas. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and the legislature has left the building, but the Texas Impact team has been hard at work. Last week, we welcomed Texas Impact's Leadership Council to Austin for its annual in-person meeting. The council elected Texas Impact's new board of directors, including our incoming president, Reverend Phil Dickey, and incoming vice president, Reverend Laura Walters. You can read more about the meeting on our Substack. And y'all have heard me talk about it before, but I love Texas Impact's structure where Texas faith leaders from across the state come together to do the hard work of consensus building to create a set of legislative priorities in line with their faith social teachings. And then working together to create a movement of Texans of faith working together on our shared values. We left there, and several of us went to Dallas for a convening of organizations standing up against Christian nationalism, dubbed the Religious Freedom and Public School Summit, convened by Interfaith Alliance. Y'all, the energy was real as the threat of Christian nationalist policies, especially here in Texas. And Texas Impact has been leading the faith community's work on defending religious liberty and public education, along with our great partners at Christians Against Christian Nationalism, the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, Pastors for Texas Children, and so many others. The conference was a great opportunity for those of us who've been working on this issue to spend some quality time strategizing and deepening our connections, and it gave us a fantastic opportunity to meet colleagues from other states who are fighting the same fights. We even found a few podcast guests for future weeks, so stay tuned for more on that. Another thing I love about Texas Impact is the number of excited young advocates who circulate through the organization as interns or fellows early in their advocacy journey. I remember being one of those young interns back in my grad school days, and I remember how it shaped my life and career. And so we are excited today to welcome two of Texas Impact's newest fellows, Alexandra Lang and Dylan Lay, to the conversation this week. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Joining us for the conversation this week are two of Texas Impact's newest policy fellows, Alexandra Lang and Dylan Lay. Alexandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And Dylan, glad you could be with us.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here, Scott.
You've been on for what, like a month now? Is that about right?
I've been here for maybe 2.5 weeks. I'm like the newest policy fellow, so.
Yeah, I have just a couple more weeks on him, so I've been here, I think, maybe a month or so, give or take.
Well, there's been a lot go on in the month since you were here, both in the world and in the Texas Impact universe. We last week had our Texas Impact Leadership Council's annual meeting, which you all got to be a part of. And just this week, you both attended with me and B, the Religious Freedom and Public School Summit, which was convened by the Interfaith Alliance. So a lot going on to help orient you to Texas Impact. We're going to talk about some of that today. But before we do any of that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves, Alexandra, why you're excited to join the Texas Impact team?
All right. So I was born and raised in Texas, born in San Antonio and raised there, went to TCU, Texas Christian University, go Frogs, in Fort Worth. And then I moved to Austin. I'm a former news producer, did that for a couple of years, loved it, but now I'm excited to enter the advocacy space. And in my time in journalism, I obviously heard a lot about the work that Texas Impact does, and I even then was pretty blown away by it. And so when I decided to move out of journalism and into advocacy, Texas Impact was absolutely one of the first organizations I looked into, and I'm so happy and feel so lucky to be here and beyond excited and really ready to get to work and continue getting to work. Certainly have gotten to hit the ground running, especially in the last couple weeks of the last special session there. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, nice timing coming right at the end of the second special session. I won't put you on the spot, but how's it feel being on the opposite side of the microphone today?
It is a little surreal. I am used to booking the guests, not being the guest, but it's exciting, and I can kind of see what it's like on the other side, because goodness knows I was sitting in the control room watching the interview and never judging ever, but either like I was paying attention to other things going on, just the sort of zoomed out producer roles and editing the interviews for time and things like that. And it's a little strange to be involved in an interview and the one talking. So this is going to be interesting for me.
I'm sure producer Davey can relate right now, but we're glad you're on and glad you're with us. Dylan, same question. Talk to us about who you are, what you bring, and why you're excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm also from Texas. I was born in Austin, so I've been here all my life. I come from a sort of immigrant family background. My dad's from Vietnam. He was born in Saigon, and he came to the United States when he was 12. So I've grown up in a mixed family household. And at UT, I studied sociology and Spanish. I did a study abroad in Mexico, which I totally loved, to change my perspective on everything. And I think after that study abroad, I kind of was focused as a humanities major on maybe pursuing law school, policy, trying the best I could to find a career where I could make some positive change. I just graduated last semester, and originally, especially right now, I was looking to get into immigration law, and I saw this job posting and I interviewed with B, and I came back from the interview telling my family, like, this would be my dream job. Like, I can't believe I found something like this. And to be honest, like, after the interview, I wasn't even considering that I was going to get chosen for the position. I still feel like I'm in this sort of like, post imposter syndrome feeling, but I got the call and I've been here for, it's not even been like 3 weeks, but I can also second, especially getting thrown in at the second legislative session at the tail end of that. It was a very chaotic awakening, but I've totally loved my time here so much, and we do so much diverse work, and this is the first time I've felt so motivated and excited to go to work, because the amount of people that I'm surrounded by that are so passionate and dedicated to doing really meaningful work, and the amount of work that we do, it just made me love the job so much so far. So
love that. You mentioned people that we get to be surrounded by. One of the things I love about my job is the opportunity to go out and talk to groups throughout the state. And one of the things I often tell them about is how special the Texas Impact Leadership Council, formerly known as our board of directors, is, especially at their annual meeting, where they come together with about 50 people from various faith backgrounds from all across Texas who come together and process what issues Texans of faith care about, what issues we should be working on, how we go about that work. And so your first weeks on the job, you had a chance to come together with the Leadership Council as they had their annual meeting in Austin. I wonder if you have any reflections from that time together that you might like to share with our audience.
I'd heard a fair amount about the Leadership Council, especially in the run-up to the meeting, and I obviously didn't quite know what to expect, but it was really wonderful to see, to one, put faces to the names I had heard so much about even in such a short time, but also to see the evidence of grassroots organizing by faith leaders and people of faith, both in Texas, was very inspiring for me. I am Jewish. Like I said, I did not say that I'm Jewish, but I'm Jewish. And it was really cool to meet with members of the National Council of Jewish Women and to meet with Jewish faith leaders as well, like at the meeting for me personally, and to get to make those connections and see how people in my own faith are continuing to do that work, and obviously other faiths too. But there is that extra special sense of community. Being a Jewish person living in Texas is quite a specific experience, just like it is being in any minority group of any kind. So it was really neat to get to experience that and talk to them.
Yeah, love that. Dylan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. It was definitely cool to actually meet the people that work as part of our member organizations, but also just me as a new person, it helped a lot to learn more about what we do. And I think that's kind of manifested in the membership council, because as a advocacy network, being able to bring people together from so many different faiths and kind of forge that connection kind of gave me a better idea of how I can explain like our work and the job of Texas Impact to someone who asks me what exactly is the organization. Also just learning in depth about, work that our very own team members do, pointing to specific issues and wins that we've had, that really helped me understand a lot more what exactly is Texas Impact.
Yeah, and kind of a wide range of issues that we do work on. And I think that's one of the things that I left the meeting thinking about is our community seems so divided right now. Our state, our nation seems so divided right now. And Alex, you mentioned like the breadth of faith traditions that were in the room together, who could all find consensus, who could all find common ground on some pretty complicated and controversial topics. And so, I kind of left with that idea, right? That like we have a lot of different experiences, a lot of diversity, theological, political, all kinds of diversity on that board. And yet they're able to come together, have some serious conversations with each other, and find common ground on issues. Anything else y'all can, any other reflections leaving that leadership council retreat?
I think it was also just really clear how much everybody liked each other and how deep the relationships go and how long the relationships go. Everybody, except for the 3 new fellows, had known each other for so long or seemed like it. So it was clear how much, despite, like you said, the different backgrounds that everybody came from, it was still very clear how much of a community everybody is and how important that is in activism and in working together. You have to have those bonds forged over time. So that was neat to see play out.
Yeah, that's one thing I would also like echo with what you're saying is that Texas Impact, maybe not being the largest organization in the world, one thing that's really stood out to me is the quality of the members. The people that have been here for such a long time consistently put out quality work, and I think that's really important.
And so we, a few days after leaving the Texas Impact Leadership Council retreat, we had a chance to go to another event, the Religious Freedom and Public School Summit, which was convened by Interfaith Alliance, which was an opportunity for groups who were working to combat Christian nationalism, especially in public schools, to come together and learn, to network, to dream about what comes next. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that. First of all, like high-level takeaways. What were your initial reactions to being together in that room of 150 plus folks?
For me, it was, I said I used the word surreal earlier, but I'm going to use it again because I've heard of a lot of these organizations, and it was so cool to meet people who had done the work that I've been hearing about for years, and like ACLU of Texas, obviously, but also Texas Freedom Network and other organizations that unfortunately are slipping my mind right now. But there were just so many that I was a little starstruck, which I know sounds a little strange to say, but it was very exciting to get to talk to people who have made a career and a life of this and are doing the things that I want to do. And I was immensely inspired by all of the speeches and panels and discussions that were had. I was hanging on every word, which is difficult to do when you have ADHD. Let me tell you, to pay attention for that long. And I had a wonderful time, and something that this thought wasn't born from the conference, but it's something that I've been thinking about and was absolutely reinforced by it, which is we absolutely cannot take anything for granted. We cannot take our Constitution for granted. We can't take our Bill of Rights for granted. James Madison, when he wrote the First Amendment, the first line of the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of a religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof. That is the first line of the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights in the United States. And despite that very high priority placing, we absolutely cannot take that or anything else for granted. We have to hold on to it tightly. And the moment that we look away is the moment that it gets taken away.
I hear a former media member coming out in you there. Love that. Love that. Bring your whole self to the position.
More like a former speech and debate kid. Let's not give journalism too much credit.
I'll
there.
give it all to you. Give it all to you.
Thank you.
Dylan, same thing. Any initial takeaways from the gathering?
Yeah, I think we were all a little starstruck. Alex and I were talking about, we were just sort of blown away by the high quality of the conference. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I mean, emphasizing again, like the diversity, we saw talks from professors, lawyers, faith leaders, former teachers. And I mean, there's good and bad. Obviously, I think that the amount of Bible thumping legislation that we're seeing in the South right now is concerning. But, something to be optimistic about is, number one, the diversity and the amount of people that should have an interest in keeping religion out of schools. It's not, Scott, you and I were talking about this. It's not just people that are, atheists or, primarily interested in a secular education. It's religious people too. And people that, care a lot about their faith don't want to see it polluted by the state. And that coalition to me was really interesting because I think the big takeaway is that we should all be interested in the separation of church and state, not just the people that have no interest in seeing religion and education, right? Or better said, like religion in their lives. And, another thing is that in terms of the legal arguments, we saw with some of the lectures on the history of the Ten Commandments and the Bible and prayer in schools, it's really on pretty flimsy ground, like there's not really a strong legal argument to be enforcing some of this legislation. So we've seen a lot of wins in a lot of lawsuits, and hopefully that continues. I think the main concern is the Supreme Court right now, but, on the state level, we can still have a lot of protections and optimism, I think. So.
I think you're right. I do remember that conversation we were having. That's one that we've had with the public school defenders many times, especially around the chaplains debate last year. Is I'm a person of faith, and specifically, I'm a Christian who cares about the Christian education of my children who are in public schools, and I want my wife and my self and my pastor and people in our church to be the person responsible for that Christian education, not an untrained school teacher who is not equipped, nor should they be equipped to be having those conversations. And I think it's especially important that people of faith speak up about this topic. I want to talk about hope in a minute, but before we get to hope, there were a lot of things coming out of that conference that terrified me. And we've talked about a lot of them on this program. We've talked a lot about them in Texas Impact gatherings, but I think a lot of people aren't paying attention necessarily to all of the concerning things that are happening in regards to Christian nationalism and kind of every one of our issue areas that we care about. What was most concerning to you about this Christian nationalist takeover of public policy in the United States?
I'm probably most concerned about the things we won't see. I'm concerned about the kid that's getting bullied that won't say anything, the kid that feels left out and isolated because of their faith, no matter what faith they are, whether they're in a minority religion or just a kind of Christian that isn't in line with what everybody else is. That there is a lot of pressure to fit in when you're a kid, and any way that you stand out or are different can feel like a target is on your back. And I think I'm most concerned about the things that we won't hear about because nobody feels brave enough to talk about it, and the consequences that won't get reported in statistics, that won't get brought up to school administration, the things that will go unsaid. And that I think is what concerns me the most.
How about you, Dylan? What's most concerning?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying earlier, the big concerning thing for me is the sort of unraveling of what should be legal foundations in this country, because does go back to the Supreme Court, but even in the Texas Constitution, some things that we were talking about was the fact that good public schools, I don't remember the exact quote like the pastor does, but good public schools being necessary to the well-being of society being upended by privatizing schools and kind of holding the funding of schools ransom in exchange for Christian curriculums. Which, by the way, even if you wanted Christian teachings in school, they weren't even that good of quality. But the issue is that we're talking about precedents like the Lemon Test, for example, that have been in place for 50 years. I mean, I was just thinking the Civil Rights Act, that's been like 60 years, and we're talking about what should be things that aren't even up for debate that are being upended because what we were talking about with the legal processes of our Supreme Court, it's not really arguments that are based in fact. It's quote unquote history, but it's cherry picked history. Where can we find one quote from George Washington where he said religion is somewhat important? So this is the historical argument that we're going to use to allow the 10 Commandments in the classroom and things like that. And I think what we're seeing with a lot of this legislation is the reason why they're going for it is they see an opening in the Supreme Court that allows them to pass that legislation. And so public schools being underfunded, I think is really going to have a serious effect. But, we'll see with the Blue Bonnet curriculum if we can, I know it was only 1/4 of the schools. We'll see if more schools take up that curriculum, but I think that's been the most concerning thing for me.
I think you both gave the exact right answers. I think we need public policy that does not harm humans, where everybody is treated equally. We need good public policy that protects religious freedom. One of the things so all that said, you gave the right answers. One of the things that also concerns me is that the broader world looks and sees people of faith trying to take over school systems. And I think it harms our faith. It harms our faith institutions when the broader public sees specifically Christians behaving like this. And so one of the things I get asked always when I'm out and about is what gives you hope? And one of the things that gives me such great hope is the way Texans of faith specifically, because that's who I see, have responded to this over the course of the last few months. And I think we have a lot to be proud of in terms of this coalition and this movement fighting back against this Christian nationalist takeover attempt. And so I wonder if you have any advice for our listeners who are doing the hard work, anything from this event that was given out in terms of next steps or strategies that we could use to work for a better system. Any next steps for folks?
This is sort of something that I took that wasn't directly said, but you mentioned the word hope, and it makes me think about something I've been kind of kicking around in my head for a while, which is my anguish is my hope. The fact that I still feel something is my hope. The fact that other people still feel angry or indignant or sad. The fact that we not only still care, but the fact that we feel as though there's something to do about it gives me hope, because one of the worst things we can do is decide that there's nothing we can do and that there's nothing to do. And the fact that that I continue to be upset by things that happen in the world and on the news, the fact that I still feel and the fact that other people are still feeling is what keeps me going.
Yeah, because it would be really easy to check out right now, right?
It would be very easy. And I brought up my journalism background, and being a journalist, you have to know and report on what is going on in the world. You have to live, breathe, eat, sleep the news. And I know about people who understandably don't want to engage with the news, don't want to read, don't want to watch, don't want to do any of it. And of course, that makes sense to a degree. It's not comfortable, it's not fun, it's not easy, but the more we can remind ourselves of our humanity and our empathy and remind ourselves of other people's humanity and empathy, I think the more we will remember that this is not normal, and it will keep us from thinking that we have to give up.
Love that. What do you think, Dylan?
You know, it's kind of cliche, but a lot of people say focusing on local government is really important times like this. And I think it's very relevant because I think a lot of the loss in hope, especially for me and other young people I know, comes from this feeling of powerlessness, especially from the expanding executive, both at the federal level and the state level. But we already have seen, tangible victories by really engaging in local government and, for example, the 10 Commandments bill already being, locked down by judges in Austin, Travis County. I think people need to really learn about what their governments are doing, because that's kind of the first step of knowing how you can work within the system. We're actually doing a series on that on our Substack right now. Shout out to Sydney.
Yeah, shout out to Sydney.
We just did a article on the Secretary of State. Because at the end of the day, like a lot of these policies, like when we saw Roe v. Wade overturned, they're not popular decisions. And so it's not, I don't want to minimize the real effects we're already seeing, but it's not like everywhere in the country it's going to be impossible to resist against these changes. So I think emphasizing the community aspect, first educating yourself on what your government actually does and getting involved in that is going to have a decent effect, I would say.
I think that local piece is really important. And I think B mentioned it during one of her answers during B was on a panel and did a Q&A, and one of the questions talked about hope, I think. And one of the things she talked about was the efforts that many of you made last year at this time when the chaplains bill had passed and every local school board throughout the state of Texas was having to vote on it. People of faith organized and got together with other people in their community and met with school board members. And as a result of that organizing work, as a result of those local connections, made it such that very few school districts across the state implemented that program. And so I think it is important that we build connections, that we build community, that we do that work at the local level, because that's where advocacy efforts really can make a difference and create change. And so, friends, we've got work to do. Alex, Dylan, you also have work to do during the course of our time together during your fellowship. What else are you hoping comes out of this experience? What are your dreams for this year that we have together?
I will get into that. One thing I want to just sort of build off of what y'all said, and I'm quoting from one of my favorite shows and one of Scott's favorite shows.
Oh, I'm excited.
Decisions are made by those who show up. And from The West Wing, every time they say that on The West Wing, they're like, a wise person once said, like, they don't know who said it, and I've tried to figure out who said it, and I don't know, so I just say it's from The West Wing, the mind of Aaron Sorkin. And so I do believe that decisions are made by people who show up, and if we want different decisions to be made, then we have to be the ones to show up. In terms of what I hope for the future, I want to learn as much as I can. I'm here to contribute what I can and to learn from the best in the state and, in my view, the world, but I'm a little biased there. I'm really excited to learn from you, Scott, and from producer Davey, and from everyone else on the team, all of the incredible lobby team, Kyle, Gracie, everybody. And I am just, sort of like Dylan said, the imposter syndrome is wearing off, but I'm so excited to help as much as I can and learn as much as I can and have as many pinch me moments as I can, just walking in the door every day. So
love that. Dylan, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. Specifically, like learning about organizing and working with, grassroots organizing. To me, that's always been the sort of career that I've wanted to follow. Just yesterday, I went to the Texas Gun Sense fundraiser where Texas Impact, we got the award for gun advocacy when the projects was Vidas Robadas. And Bobby Watson did that project, and he unfortunately is no longer working with us, but I'm going to be taking over for that. So it's some really big shoes to fill, but I'm very, very excited and passionate about working on that project. For me, one of the things that I'm hoping that maybe we can expand even more is that, we already are a pretty diverse, we have a pretty diverse network of people that, put up those shirts and everything, but I'm hoping that we could maybe expand it even more, especially in the Latino community, and trying to see as many people as we can, reach out to. That'd be really exciting for me.
Well, Alexandra, Dylan, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for committing a year of your life to doing this work. I really appreciate y'all taking the time. And I know our listeners who've listened today are going to want to have a chance to meet you. And so, friends, go sign up at texasimpact.org. Sign up for all the groups, sign up for our notifications, and come see Dylan and Alex sometime at one of our events throughout Texas, or sign up to be on a team with them. But we've got a lot to do this year. Dylan, Alex, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I want to thank Alexandra and Dylan for joining us, and thank you for tuning in. New advocates like Alexandra and Dylan give me hope. But as I said in our conversation, you, our dear listeners, also give me hope, because you are standing up and speaking out against efforts to plant Christian nationalist seeds in every aspect of our policy lives. We need you to continue to stand up and speak out against these efforts, and I believe we're up for the task. As always, Texas Impact has resources for you, so check out the website, our Substack, and all of the social media channels, including the Ledge TV playlist on our YouTube channel, which is a great resource to help you share the story of what's happening. Spend some time on the Action Center page at texasimpact.org to find out how you can get involved, sign up for a team, join the Texas Faith Votes campaign, and then invite all of your friends to do the same and join you. While you're on the website, I hope you'll take a moment to sign up to be a member of Texas Impact. Your membership supports this podcast and all of the work to engage Texans of faith to advocate for a more just and equitable Texas. It's a very effective and affordable way to put your values into action. So with that, I think it's time we close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnet, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.